everyone, it's Tony with Hidden Light Photography. And today we're going to be wrapping up the basic portion of my Updated PixInsight Workflow Series by processing a broadband one-shot color image. So if you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button. I don't want you to miss out on any upcoming content. Now let's jump into PixInsight and do a complete workflow on a broadband one-shot color image. In today's video, we're going to be wrapping up the basic portion of my Updated PixInsight Workflow Series. So far, we've learned some various processing techniques using dual narrowband one-shot color data, and then we combine those techniques into a full basic PixInsight workflow for dual narrowband one-shot color data. And now we're going to be utilizing those same techniques and doing a full basic PixInsight workflow with broadband one-shot color data. And to do that, we're going to be working with M31 or the Andromeda Galaxy. Now, before we get started, just like my other videos in my Updated PixInsight Workflow Series, I'm going to be showing you how to process an image using both my scripts as well as SETI scripts. And if you haven't used these scripts before, don't worry, I'll have a link to my repository in the description of this video here, as well as a link to SETI's website containing his repository. So make sure to show him support, visit the website, check out his videos. He did an amazing job on these scripts. Now, M31 here was captured using my Celestron Omni XLT 150 OTA, my Celestron AVX mount, my ASI 2600 MC one-shot color camera, and my Optolong L Pro filter. Now, as always, when we're processing an image, we want to start with the corrective work first, as that sets the stage for stretching, and finally, beautification. Now, as you can see here, M31 has a very heavy green cast, and that doesn't always have to be green. It can be red, it can be blue. All that means is that the color channels are not balanced. So we want to start by doing an initial color balancing of the channels. And what that does is it allows you to see the potential of your data. We also want to do an initial star correction, as any imperfections in the stars can inhibit the effectiveness of background extraction, especially when using AI models. To get started, we're going to go to Script, HLP, Astro Image Primer. Now, Astro Image Primer is going to do the initial color balancing by using linear fit, and there's also several other options that the script can do. For the sake of this video here, we're just going to use star correction, which calls on StarXTerminator's correct only to do the initial correction of the stars for you. We'll start by choosing our image, checking star correction, and then we need to choose a reference type for linear fit. We can choose lowest mean, middle mean, and highest mean. Now, Andromeda does have a brighter core, but there's also some dimmer areas that I want to try to bring out. So what I'm going to do is try to keep the core in check, but also try to bring out some of those dimmer areas. So I'm going to choose middle mean. I'm going to click execute. And the script is going to go ahead and automatically separate the color channels, measure the mean values of each channel, choose in this case the middle mean for reference of linear fit, perform linear fit, and then call on StarXTerminator and run StarXTerminator's correct only to do the initial star correction. We'll exit out of Astro Image Primer, we'll minimize our original image, and then we'll do a quick auto stretch. Now, as you can see, the initial color balance has been complete. And if we click the back button, we can also see that the initial star correction has been done as well. Now, if we notice, Andromeda is upside down. So let's set the orientation of our image. And to do that, we're going to do Image, Geometry, and in this case, rotate 180 degrees. All that this box here is stating is that we're going to lose the astrometric solution if we continue. that's okay. I'm going to show you how to put that back in later in the video. What we're going to do is click yes, and now Andromeda is right side up. The next thing that we want to do is crop out any stacking artifacts. Stacking artifacts can inhibit the effectiveness of background extraction, especially if you're using AI models. So it's important to crop out your stacking artifacts to have nice clean edges. Now, stacking artifacts can happen for a variety of reasons, mostly due to multiple nights of imaging where pointing differences and rotational differences really come into play, but always make sure to check the corners and edges of your image. We're going to zoom in, and what we're going to see here as we scroll, we'll take this bright star here. Off to the right, we have some artifacts, and even in the top right corner, we have some low signal edges, and these are the things that we want to crop out. Now, I'm not sure if the video can pick it up, but if you look, we have vertical lines down the left edge. So how we correct this is we're going to go to Process, All Processes, and come down to Dynamic Crop. We're going to draw a cropping box in our image, and then we're going to zoom in. Now, if we take a look, we have our cropping box on the left, and then we have our image on the right. Anything outside of the cropping box is going to be removed. If we hover our cursor over the edge of the cropping box, we see that the cursor changes. If we click and hold, we can fine-tune where we place our cropping box. But what we're looking for, one, make sure that the image is getting cropped the way you want it, and two, make sure that all of your stacking artifacts are going to be removed or are outside of the cropping box. Once we confirm our cropping box is where we want it, we'll click the green check mark. We'll zoom back in and just double check our work and make sure everything that we wanted removed is truly removed. Now, once we confirm that everything is looking good, what we're going to do is exit out of Dynamic Crop. And now it's time to extract the background. What we're going to do is go into Script, SETI Astro, and Automatic DBE. Now, I always recommend check out SETI Astro's tutorials on his scripts. He explains the ins and outs and how to use them. Automatic DBE works very well on default settings, so I'm just going to go ahead and execute it as is. And what it's going to do is extract the background for us. It's going to go ahead and automatically place the sample points and then run dynamic background extraction. Now, I do have a video on some common background extraction issues. I'll have a link to that in the description of this video here, so make sure to check that out. Now I'm going to exit out of the console, exit out of the background model, and do a quick auto stretch. Now, in my common background extraction issues video, I do go over what happened here. And I'll briefly go over it. As you can see, we have an odd background color and the top right wasn't extracted correctly. So what I'm going to do is go into View, Explorer Windows, History Explorer. I'm going to choose the image that we're working on, which is going to be the background extracted image, and then double click on Dynamic Background Extraction. What this is going to do is reveal the points that the script placed for us. Now, it's important to understand this is in no way a performance issue of the script itself. This is actually my only data set that this happens on. And I figured that if it happened to me, it's probably happened to somebody else, which is why I wanted to put the video there. Now we can see that there were no points placed in this upper right corner where we had issues with extracting, and we have a very tight cluster. So I'm going to go and spread all of these out, and I'm going to place some of them in the corner that was missed. And we're going to work one quadrant at a time. So what I'm going to do here, start in this upper right quadrant, and then work clockwise from there. And what we're doing again is just spreading some of these points out so we have good sampling of the background, as well as the area that was missed over here. Now, let's move on to the bottom right quadrant. I know that on this data set particularly, I have issues extracting in the bottom right here. I'm just going to move a point in the bottom right, and we can see a couple of points are within the galaxy itself. We don't want to sample structure. We always want to make sure that we are sampling just the background. So we're looking for any points within the structure itself and moving those points to the background only. Now moving on to the bottom left quadrant. Again, we have a point within the structure. I'm just going to move it over to the edge here. We can see that we weren't properly extracted a little bit in this edge, so I'm just going to put some sample points there. And we're going to go ahead and again spread everything out. Make sure that we don't have any tight clusters, which the tight clusters won't necessarily give you an issue, but we want to make sure that we're sampling the background well. I might even add a few as we go. Now we can see there's another point here within the bright structure. We want to move that away. We don't want anything near any bright areas that can inhibit the effectiveness of this. Now we don't have any points within the galaxy in the bottom left quadrant. So let's move to the top left quadrant. I can already see several points within the galaxy, so I'm going to move those away. Again, just making sure that our points are spread out. And the top left here, I have issues extracting, so I'm just going to move a point in there. Make sure that we don't have any points within the galaxy. I'm going to add one more point in this region over by my cursor. And now do one final sweep. Make sure that we don't have any points within the galaxy. And then what we're going to do, we need to save the location of these points. And to do that, within the dynamic background extraction window, we're going to take the triangle, drag it, and drop it onto the workspace. What we're going to do from here is exit out of dynamic background extraction. We'll minimize our background extracted image for the time being. Move it off to the side. And now we have the image that we started with, which has not been background extracted yet. We're going to take the icon that we just created with the background extraction process, double click, and we can see that our points have been saved and translated onto our image. Now, I can already see a couple of points here that I missed, so I'm going to drag them off to the side here and just double check, make sure that we're good. So now, since we're looking good, I'm just going to click the green check mark. We'll exit out of dynamic background extraction for now, exit out of the background model, exit out of the console. I'm going to resize our image really quick and then do a quick stretch. And now we have a much better result, especially compared to this one here. So now, since we're not going to be using the original background extracted image, we can exit out. We'll exit out of the background extraction icon and we'll work with our image here. So now what it's time to do is color calibrate our image. Now, this is a little bit of a difference between the dual narrowband workflow and broadband workflow. In this image here, we used a broadband filter. And what that means is we were capturing, let's call it real light, more natural light waves. Now, dual narrowband is what's called false color. We're using very specialized, specific wavelengths of light. This is going to be real light. So SPCC is going to do a much better job on the structure itself versus trying to color calibrate a nebula that was captured using narrowband data. That's why when we do the narrowband data or dual narrowband data, we separate the stars and then color calibrate the stars independently from the deep sky object. Here, everything is captured with real light, so we can use SPCC on the image as a whole. Now, in order for SPCC to work, we do need to reinstate the astrometric solution. Remember how when we did the orientation, we lost the astrometric solution. This is the part where we reinstate it. So what we're going to do is go into Script, Astrometry, and come down to Image Solver. Now, this top half here, we want to make sure that all of the information is correct. I like to use focal distance, and as you can see, the focal distance is not correct for the OTA that I used. The reason behind that is when I pre-processed this image, I pre-processed it using SuperPixel. I don't recommend using SuperPixel. I'll get into that in another video. What we're going to do is click Search. We'll enter in our target information, in this case M31, click Search, and then we'll use the drop downs to get to the closest description of our target. In this case, Andromeda, M31, click OK, and the script is going to essentially plate solve our image for us, reinstating the astrometric solution and telling SPCC exactly where in the sky that this image was captured, so SPCC can then color calibrate the image and assign every star its exact color. It's really cool when you think about it. So we're going to exit out of the console here, and now we need a background. We'll go to Script, SETI Astro, Find Background, click Search, and the script went ahead, scanned the image, and applied an ideal background based on the stats for the image. We'll exit out of Find Background, exit out of the console, and now we can go into Process, All Processes, come down to Spectrophotometric Color Calibration. Always make sure to reset your processes before using them, just in case there's any residual data from a previous project. And if you need help with using SPCC or Spectrophotometric Color Calibration, I do have a couple of videos. I'll throw links to them in the description of this video here, so make sure to check them out. And as always, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Basically, what we're going to do is choose our sensor. We're going to go ahead and choose our filters, in this case, the Optolong L Pro. And then what we're going to do is choose Region of Interest, choose From Preview, and then we're going to choose the preview that SETI Astro script put in. In the dropdown, we'll find that preview, click OK, triangle, drag and drop. SPCC is then going to go ahead and color calibrate our image for us. We'll exit out of SPCC, exit out of the console, we'll go to Preview, delete all, and then we'll do a quick auto stretch. And our image is fully color calibrated. Now you may or may not see a big difference, and that's okay. We're using broadband data here. This is real light, so the differences may be very subtle. And those subtle differences are what makes such an impact on your image. So if you don't see a huge difference, don't be discouraged. SPCC did its thing, and you can rest assured that all of the colors are accurate. Now, the next step that we're going to do is we're going to reduce the noise within the image. So we're going to go ahead, let's zoom in really quick. Let's go to Process, All Processes, and we're going to come down to Noise Exterminator. Now, this is a process that you don't want to overuse. You want to remove just a little bit of noise. I'm going to start with 0.6 on this, triangle, drag and drop. And then Noise Exterminator is going to go ahead and reduce the noise. you don't want to eliminate. A little bit of noise is a good thing. So as we can see here, we have a little bit of noise. If you happen to overdo or underdo the noise reduction, you can just click back at the top left of PixInsight, adjust your noise reduction or your denoise setting. I'm going to move down to 0.5, reapply noise reduction. And what we're looking for again is just a little bit of noise left. We don't want to completely eliminate it. So here, I like the way this looks, so I'm going to go ahead and accept that the way it is. And then we're going to remove the stars and process the stars independently from the galaxy. Now to do this, we're going to go to Script, HLP, Star Console. We're going to start by selecting our image. And then we have several options here. We can do the full star correction, which utilizes StarXTerminator. So we're going to check that. And then we're going to do star removal. Now, I do want to give a shout out here. One of our subscribers, Frank, gave me an amazing idea to enable the ability to choose large overlap when using StarXTerminator. Now, this came about in my video for when StarXTerminator removes structure with the stars. Sometimes, depending on the data set, we can utilize large overlap with StarXTerminator in order to overcome that. I'll have a link to that video in the description of this video here, so if you're interested, check it out. But Frank, thank you for this idea. Truly amazing, and I think it's going to be very helpful and an amazing addition to the script. Now, I do know that StarXTerminator does struggle with the core of Andromeda, so I'm going to enable StarXTerminator's large overlap with this. Now, as you can see, there are a couple of options for star removal. I'm utilizing StarXTerminator's unscreened stars. So this is because even though we're in the linear stage, I'm going to be putting them back in after stretching. So I'm going to utilize unscreened stars. You can also do a stars only image with StarXTerminator, or if you don't have StarXTerminator at all, you can utilize StarNet. Now, it's important that you use the correct StarNet. If you're using linear data, use StarNet linear. Otherwise, if you've already stretched, use StarNet nonlinear. So now that we're set up, we're going to run the full StarXTerminator. We're going to remove the stars, in this case, StarXTerminator unscreened stars and enabling large overlap. I'm going to click full width half max. Since we have a combined RGB image, the script is going to extract a luminance, measure the full width half max of the stars, plug that information into StarXTerminator, run the full StarXTerminator for a full star correction, and then it's going to call on StarXTerminator, in this case using large overlap, and then leave us with a stars image and a starless image. We'll exit out of Star Console. And now for the time being, we're going to minimize our stars image. We'll work on that later. And we're going to finish processing Andromeda here. So now it's time to stretch. And to do that, we're going to go to Script, SETI Astro, Statistical Stretch. We're going to refresh the preview and see what the script is going to do. And SETI Astro does have some text up here. And basically what it's stating is that if you have, let's say, a galaxy and you have a lot of background, 0.1 would be a good starting point. Whereas if you have minimal background and you have a nebula filling the image, 0.25 is a good starting point. And what these numbers represent is target median. Now we have a galaxy here, but we also have, I would say, a medium amount of background. Let's go to 0.1 and then let's see what that does. Let's refresh the preview and we'll see that's probably a little bit too dark. So let's go to 0.2 and refresh. And that looks a little bit better. So I'm going to start with that. Now this is going to be a number that you play with and see how your data set reacts to it. And again, this is your vision, your creation. So adjust the target median, refresh the preview until you find what you like. Once you do, we're just going to click execute, exit out of statistical stretch. And now we're going to go ahead and fine tune the image here. We're going to go to process, all processes, and we're going to come down to curves transformation. Always reset just in case there's any residual settings from a previous project. And what I want to do is utilize RGB/K. This is going to adjust our contrast, and that's what we're aiming for right now. Now this little circle here towards the bottom left of curves transformation, if we click it, that gives us a preview window. We can see live what we're doing. And the way I like to think about RGB/K, the bottom left adjusts background, the top right adjusts the DSO or deep sky object. One other thing to keep in mind, if we click that little circle that we used to open up the preview window, we can actually see a before and after. Now the way to think about this, if you take a look at the preview window, we have real-time preview. This is before. This does not include anything that the process is doing. If we click the preview window again, we see real-time preview and then the process name, in this case, curves transformation. This is after. In other words, as we click on the preview button, we have before and after. Before and after. So let's reset curves transformation and let's work this a little bit at a time. Little adjustments go a long way. So we have before and after, before and after. I'm going to accept that for now. I might even just look at this, see what this does. I actually kind of like that, so I'm going to go ahead and accept it one more time. Now we're way too dark, so I'm going to reset curves transformation. And I kind of like the way this image is looking so far, so for the sake of the video, I'm just going to leave it as is. Now, we're going to go into saturation, and we're going to play with some saturation curves. You don't want to go too heavy on this. A little bit goes a long way. So I'm going to accept that. I'm going to reset and do just a little bit more. We have before and after. We'll accept that. We have before and after. I might accept that just one more time, and then we'll go ahead and leave that just for the sake of the video. We'll exit out of the preview. We'll exit out of curves transformation. And now our galaxy is ready to go. So we'll minimize our galaxy image, and we'll bring out our stars image. And this is going to be another difference between the dual narrowband data and the broadband data. If we go into script, SETI Astro, with the dual narrowband data, to stretch our stars, we usually use NB to RGB star combination script. However, this is not dual narrowband data or narrowband data. So instead, what we're going to do is just go into star stretch. Now, in star stretch, it's going to work exactly the way NB to RGB star combination works. We're going to click show preview, and then let's go ahead and resize our preview. Let's bring it all the way out so we can see it. And then from here, for stretch amount, if we move it to the right, refresh preview, our stars are more prominent. If we move it to the left, refresh preview, our stars are less prominent. So the default setting is 5. Let's refresh the preview. Let's see if we can get a little bit more out of it. So I'm going to go 5.5. I might even go to a stretch amount of 6. And I think that looks probably a little bit too prominent, so let's reduce this to 5.5. We'll refresh it one more time. Again, this is a personal taste. This is your vision, your creation. So make sure to get this done exactly the way that you want it. And I'm going to execute this as is for the sake of the video. And now we have our stars that are stretched, they're color calibrated. We have our galaxy, which is ready to go. And what we're going to do now is combine the two together. And the easiest way to do that, script, HLP, stars back. Now, I used StarXTerminator's unscreened stars, so I'm going to make sure unscreened stars is utilized. If you remove the stars using StarNet and you had non-linear data, so you use StarNet non-linear, you're also going to use unscreened stars. If you used StarXTerminator's stars only image or you use StarNet linear, use stars only image. So once we have the type of stars image that we have selected, what we're going to do is select our DSO image, in other words, our galaxy, our stars image, click execute, and we have our final image. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did and want to help support the channel, hit that join button and consider becoming a Hidden Light Photography member. There's tons of great perks for you, and your support helps me keep bringing you more tips and tricks. Another great way to support the channel is by using my High Point Scientific affiliate link if you're in the market for some new gear. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it really helps me out. Also, do me a quick favor. Tap that channel icon that just popped up and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. Drop a comment below. Did you find this video useful? How do you normally process your broadband data? I'd love to hear about your processing techniques. And then check out that next video. Until the next time, clear skies.